Yo, homeboy just hung up the phone live on the air because Donald Trump said that that's his man's. That's your man's. And you decided to hang up the phone because you got caught. Not caught. I'm going to say it like a New Yorker because I'm from New Jersey and New York is basically my cousin. You got caught. So hilarious. So what Zohran was saying is he's correct. And Andrew Cuomo couldn't take it. Don't get me wrong. I got my issues with Zohran because I don't think he goes far enough. But the crazy part is you got Andrew Cuomo, who's had 13 women who's accused him of sexual harassment, and he murdered a whole bunch of old people in old folks' homes during the pandemic with nipple rings. Welcome to the jungle. We got fun and games. If you know, you know. So right now, as we speak, if you're watching this on the rewatch in the clip, then this would be yesterday. But the election for New York City mayor is going on as we speak. And so in about 3 or 4 hours or so, we will know who's gonna be the next mayor of New York City. And so we're gonna get into this. There was a particular interview that happened last night on MSNBC between Ari Melber and Zohran Mamdani. And there were some things that were said that I want to get into. And there's just some funny stuff that happened as well with Andrew Cuomo. We're going to get into all that in a little bit. But let me just share this and we will go over this right now. Let's get into it here.
Joining me now is Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic nominee running for mayor of New York City. Thanks for being here.
Well, it's a pleasure to be on.
It's great to have you. You've campaigned on affordability for a long time. Let's take a look.
When we all fight together on this issue of housing,
we are in a fight for housing justice for every single New Yorker. From 2021 to 2022, the rents went up 34%.
We're committed to freezing the rent for the more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants. It's the wait that is often costing so much to actually build the housing we need in this city.
Why has this always been a priority for you, and is it connecting?
You know, I think first I want to just apologize for the mustache that you showed in that hypercut. It's just a horrific decision that I made and one that I am not looking to repeat. Housing continues to be the #1 cost that's pushing New Yorkers out of this city. You know, I used to be a foreclosure prevention housing counselor. I'd work with homeowners struggling to stay in their homes, and I found that this wasn't just an issue for tenants. It was also for homeowners who were facing the possibility of delinquency on their mortgage because they were on the precipice of not being able to make ends meet. And that was the case when I was a counselor, it was the case when I was an assembly member. It continues to be the case now that I'm running to be the mayor. And it's the #1 way that we can actually keep New Yorkers here is by ensuring that we bring down the cost of living specific to housing costs.
Mm-hmm. You talk about...
So let's stop here for a second because one of the things I want to bring up, I think one of the biggest issues with a lot of Democrat politicians is they didn't follow the model that somebody like a Bernie Sanders followed. So, and I'm just putting on my political commentator and analytics hat, right? Whenever you asked Bernie Sanders, whether it was 2016 or 2020, about the issues facing America, it always would go back to economic issues, right? Of course, he would go in his spiel about, now, of course, I have my issues with, Bernie Sanders, especially being a sheep herd back into the Democratic Party. I have my issues with him really just, tap dancing for Zionists and not really fully going against them. I have my issues of him not actually pushing Black issues on top of, only just basically doing universal issues, but he's not tailoring certain issues to different groups who are also disenfranchised, whatever. I have my issues there. But one thing that he did do was that he stayed on message when it came to universal policies. And so if you asked him about what's wrong with this system, he'll talk about, Medicare for all, about how we are the only country in the developed world that actually does not issue healthcare as a right to all of its people. He'll talk about universal childcare. He'll talk about, college, needing to be tuition free because of, the cost of education being too high. He talks about, the people deserving living wage, right? He talks about, at the time, it was $15 an hour. It needs to be much higher now, but he talked about these things. He would hammer home. You knew what Bernie Sanders was going to talk about because that was his wheelhouse. That was his bread and butter. That's what he talked about. Kitchen table issues that involve your very lives on a day-to-day basis. The material, concrete things that you see and have to experience on a daily basis. That's what he talked about. And the thing is like Zohran Mamdani was actually, for all intents and purposes, studying what Bernie Sanders did. In fact, so much so that I was reminded by YouTube of a video that I saw 4 years ago from the Gravel Institute when Zohran Mamdani was actually talking about housing on the Gravel Institute. There's a video of him talking about housing. So he kept that throughout the years. Now, don't get me wrong. I do not think that Zohran Mamdani is a radical at all. And I don't think that he will govern as a radical. He will govern as a moderate. And Zohran Mamdani is just going to be, he's going to be de Blasio-esque, right? But that being said, this is one of the things that he always does. He always goes back to the material issues that faces your daily life. And the problem with the Democratic Party is it's always in the abstract. We're fighting for the soul of the Democratic Party. We're fighting for just a more just and free America. It's never, hey, we're going to make sure that your rent is actually stabilized, that we're actually not going to raise your rent, or we're going to lower your rent. Or, hey, we're going to make sure that your groceries are not going up, or we're actually going to make sure that your pay is going up. We're actually going to make sure that you actually have health care for everybody and not just the small few. We're actually going to raise taxes on this group of people who have been avoiding getting their taxes raised for God knows how long. So we're going to do it. It's like all these material things that really could help people on a day-to-day basis that actually strips away the need for being a scapegoat. They actually just don't do it because they're complicit with the Republican Party in order to keep the duopoly in place so that you keep getting shafted. But here's the thing. Now you have a Zohran Mamdani. Don't get me wrong. I do not like Democrats. I am not a Democrat and I am not a Republican. I am an independent. But here's the thing. Here's something that he gets right. He actually talks about issue for issue instead of the abstract. He doesn't get caught up in the culture war, right? Now, when it comes to, getting support from people who are marginalized, he does garner a lot of support from people for the marginalized. And to anybody that goes, oh my God, well, he's a Muslim and he's going to put in Sharia law. First of all, you don't know what the definition of Sharia law actually is, because if you knew what the definition of Sharia law was, you actually be in favor of it, especially if you're a Christian. Anyway, and so the thing is like, when it comes to people like Zohran Mamdani, this is the same dude that just, 2 nights ago, at 1 o'clock in the morning, and usually in his usual getup, just like the way he's dressed up right there, he went to a gay club. And then he was talking to the people that he went to the club. I'm sorry, I gotta say this right. He went to the club and spoke to them. And they welcomed him. They were like, hey, the big Z, he's here. I mean, you know what I mean? He went there. How many Democrat politicians do you see going to where the people are? They don't do that. So that's one thing I will say. I gotta give credit is due. He actually went there. Okay, cool. And so now the people who are marginalized in different areas go, well, he was willing to come around us. Now, I do have my critiques of, how many black areas did he go to in New York during the primary? Because, if he went to more black areas, then maybe some more black people will actually have more name recognition with him and be able to support his policies more full-throated if they knew who he was and if he was around them more. But besides that, he stayed on message. That's one thing I definitely will say. For the most part.
Freezing rent. Is that something that you view as a bold new thing? Or, as you've also mentioned, something that the mayor has the power to do that past administrations have done?
I think it's a mixture in that this clearly has precedent. We saw the previous administration did this 3 times. And we are living in a time of politics where politicians try to convince the public that there's nothing they can do. And so to even have the idea that we could actually help people, it's seen as a departure from what so many are being told in this moment. Mm-hmm. And freezing the rent, right? This is about 2.5 million New Yorkers in a city of 8.5 million. The mayor has the power to freeze their rent. I am saying I'm going to do that for 4 years, and that's in stark contrast to the current mayor, Eric Adams, who's raised the rent by more than 12%, and who decided that the person he saw his record most in anyone running for mayor was Andrew Cuomo.
Mm-hmm. Your campaign's making news with President Obama calling you. He says you're impressive to watch. Can you tell us what you talked about, and do you want his endorsement?
I appreciated that conversation.
Hang on. Let's stop here for a second. Get a call from Obama. So the radical side of me would have left him on read. I wouldn't have took his call. The radical side of me would have been like, let the phone ring. Let the phone ring. Let it go to messages. Don't answer. He went this long until the couple of days before the election to finally give me a phone call. I don't need him. I got this far without him. You know what? Bump him. The hell with Barack. No, absolutely not. That's the radical side of me. I wouldn't want an endorsement from a war criminal anyway. I don't need it. I got this far without him. Taking the call dude, why the hell you took the call? Like, that's my biggest issue. Like, you're getting too close. You are too close to these people. Too close. You're turning into another AOC. People will probably be like, JB, he already is another AOC. Critique taken. But he's feeling very Bernie Sanders, right? My good friend Joe. You know what I mean? And so this is why I wrote an article saying I don't trust him. He keeps making excuses for me not to trust him. But what I say really doesn't matter because I'm not a citizen of New York City. Hell, I'm not even in New York State. I'm about, 1,200 miles away in Orlando, Florida. What I say technically kind of doesn't matter. But I do take it as a huge, glaring red flag that he took a call from Obama. And people were like, well, he could have just took a call from Obama and things like that. Well, yeah. I would have left Obama on ringer. So Ari asked him a question if he sought Obama's endorsement. Let's hear how Zohran Mamdani answers that question.
Talked about, and do you want his endorsement?
You know, I appreciated that conversation with the president. I appreciated his thoughts that he shared about our campaign. And I also shared with him that when I was facing the bigoted and racist attacks, especially that have amplified over the last few weeks, that I looked to his State of the Union, State of a More Perfect Union address as an inspiration for how to rise above the 24-hour news cycle of an electoral campaign and speak to the soul of the politics in our city and in our country. And I really appreciated the model that he presented.
Did you tell him as a nominee you would like his endorsement?
I didn't bring up endorsements because, frankly, in these final days, the only endorsement I'm looking for is from that of the people who call the city home.
Let's talk.
All right, so that was kind of it was a little skillful. My thing is, I'm going to pick up the phone in the first place. But, you know, he didn't seek his endorsement, so it is what it is. But it feels like Obama called him to try to feel him out, to see, is there any more wiggle room that we can have with this guy? Because for all intents and purposes, Zohran Mamdani is actually more for the policies that Obama claimed he was for than Obama was. So it's not about trying to bring somebody over to the left. It's really Obama trying to see if there's room to bring Mamdani over to the right. That's what I see. I can smell it. I can just smell it.
A little more policy because budget's a big deal. Your platform says you'll raise the corporate tax rate to 11.5%, and you point out, just like neighboring New Jersey, that's 5B, and then tax the wealthiest 1% above basically people over millionaires, the flat 2% tax.
That's 4B.
Go ahead, 4B, okay. And so what does that get you, and what do you say to people who are concerned that New Yorkers are already taxed enough?
So that would get you $9 billion, and then we also said that we would save an additional $1 billion through procurement reform, through the following of the Independent Budget Office's analysis of hiring more fiscal auditors, and also by finally starting to collect on the fines and fees from landlords that owe this city currently about $800 million over a period of overall fines and fees of about $2.5 billion. So,
oh, by the way, yeah, go after them landlords, because yeah, if they're avoiding fines and fees, find them. I'm gonna sound like Zod from Man of Steel. I will find him. Find them. They've been avoiding taxes and fees. Find them. Find them. Jeez Louise, I'm telling you.
this is our revenue plan. This would more than pay for our economic agenda. It would actually allow us to start Trump-proofing our city. And what I mean by that is we're seeing right now what the Trump agenda portends for New Yorkers. This is a man who ran a presidential campaign on the premise of cheaper groceries that is now trying to cut SNAP benefits to make it even harder to afford those same groceries. And we have to protect the New Yorkers with the least from the attacks from the man with the most power in this country. And that's also what I see as a responsibility to be the next mayor of the city.
So let's get into this.
Please.
Some people say, oh, that's a bad idea. They don't want the government that involved. Okay. But then they're probably not New York Democrats, to be honest. Other people say, sounds like a good idea, but you can't afford it. And so I'm going to read in detail from Free Market Manhattan Institute. You're familiar with these critiques. They say Mamdani believes tax hikes will make him able to fund new initiatives. But the current city council budget actually gives you a choice. Quote, budget cuts with tax increases or greater cuts without them. The new $116 billion budget projects large gaps for $5 to $6 billion, 2027 to 2029. So translation, they're saying, oh, you want to get new money, but that money's already spoken for because you're going to be in the red. Your response?
Well, they're talking about $5 to $6 billion. The proposal I've put forward is about $10 billion. And I think that there's an amount of that money that's needed to fight back against these kinds of cuts. And then there's an amount of it that needs to actually fund an affirmative economic agenda. And what I mean by that is for too long as Democrats, we've thought that simply fighting back against Donald Trump is a sufficient political message. We also have to fight for something. And so at the heart of my campaign is a commitment to make buses fast and free. That would cost around $700 million. That's something that fits firmly within the question of political reality. It's just, do we have the political will to deliver it? The other commitment is about universal child care. This is something that would cost around $6 billion, something the governor is very much interested in and has been fighting for quite some time. And I appreciate not only her endorsement, but also the shared commitment on this question of affordability.
She hasn't endorsed all your funding plans yet.
No, but she has said that this is of immense importance to her. And what I've said time and again is the funding plans I've put forward are the ones I think are most straightforward and direct. And also, if there's another means by which to raise the funding, the most important thing is that we actually fund this thing. The last thing I'll say is oftentimes we talk about these initiatives only through the frame of cost as opposed to what they generate. These initiatives would also generate significant economic benefit. $700 million is the cost of free buses. The assessment from experts is that it would generate $1.5 billion in economic benefit. $5-6 billion is the cost of universal child care. When they implemented it in Quebec, it had a 10-to-1 return because there were so many more single mothers and mothers of young children who were now entering into the workforce. My point is that we have to also understand that we can only benefit in this city when we are willing to invest in this city. These are some forms of investment.
Let's talk.
Okay, so this was a pretty decent answer. It's funny how when you talk about giving more to people who are disenfranchised, especially towards the poor and working poor, a lot of people say, well, we can't afford it. And here's my thing. These are the same people that go, well, you got to spend money to make money. Well, what are we doing? Have y'all not ever heard of investment? How are we going to get a better ROI and by just giving money to people who already got it? Wouldn't it actually have a better ROI if we actually invested it in the people who need it the most so that it can return back to us? You know who also has a great ROI? Reparations to American freedmen. Oh, you didn't know I was going to go there, did you? Guess what? It has a better ROI because guess what? That money gets put out to people who need it the most. And guess what they do? Guess what they do when they have money? They spend it. And who does it go to? Oh, it goes to businesses. Don't you want businesses to be able to get that money? And a lot of people go, we don't want SNAP benefits to go to these people because they're just mooching off the government. Here's the funny part. If I were to just take that money from the government and give it directly to the people who are involved, like for instance, instead of having SNAP benefits, what if I just gave money directly to the farmers who make the food? I skip the people who need to eat the food and I just give straight to the farmers. Are they going to keep making the food? Well, people eventually aren't going to be able to afford it. And so the farmers are just going to keep making, they're not going to be able to make much food because they're going to be just depending on the government, right? They're not going to need to make really good food. They're not going to need to grow the food because the government is giving it straight to them. But people are going to starve to death. And so there's a process, right? It's a cycle. You know what happened? Like, for instance, what they're basically asking for us to do is to skip the people who need it the most. Skip over them. It's the same thing like during the 2008 housing crisis. What if Obama actually gave money to homeowners so that they could pay their mortgage? That would have been similar to SNAP benefits. That money would have went to the homeowners. The homeowners would have took that money and they would have paid their mortgage, which the mortgage money goes to the banks. So the banks would have got it anyway. The only difference is you wouldn't have a whole bunch of homeless people on top of it. Same thing with SNAP benefits. Instead of giving the money straight to the people who produce the food, guess what? You give the money to the people who need to eat the food so that they can survive. And then they, in turn, get that money to the people who produce the food. So therefore, not only are the farmers getting the money, but it's also going through the people so that they can actually survive. So this is the point that I'm trying to make, right? And so you need to invest in the people in order to be able to get a good return. If you do not invest in the people, then therefore you're not going to get a decent return. The problem is you got a lot of people going, oh my God, we're spending so much money. And here's the crazy part. People talk about, oh, we need, you're going to be taxing New Yorkers. Which ones? Which ones? Is it all New Yorkers? Well, they're the job creators. They're gonna raise their prices, and they're not gonna be able to spend as much money to pay people. They ain't paying people no way. Who they paying? Who? They know. I know a lot of New Yorkers that ain't making nothing. So if they're not paying them, then we might as well tax them a little bit more anyway, because they're not gonna pay you anyway. Where are they gonna? Oh, they're gonna leave New York. All right, fine. Deuces, bye. Y'all ain't paying nothing anyway. Y'all circumventing the tax code anyway. Y'all circumventing the tax system anyway. Maybe, just maybe, we should start, producing more worker cooperatives so that money goes to the workers and to the people instead of to these leeches. Anywho, I'm starting to go off on a tangent. Let me reel it back in.
Talk about Andrew Cuomo. One of the reasons you became something of an overnight political star is not just that you won a primary, but you beat Andrew Cuomo, who, frankly, a lot of Democrats around the country know more than you. Yeah. And I think a year ago that was true in New York.
Yes,
but you,
definitely.
Right? You beat him once. We'll see what happens Tuesday. He was just doing a new interview this weekend, and he made some remarks about diversity. I wanted to give you a chance to respond. I'll just play them in full. This was on MSNBC's Weekend.
Diversity can be a weakness if you have antipathy among groups, Jonathan. If you have racism or anti-Semitism, et cetera. So then you'd have friction. And so you have to work very hard to keep it as a positive and to make sure that it's not a negative and you have zero tolerance for any racism, any anti-Semitism, et cetera.
Your response.
This is the former governor, a Democrat ostensibly, of this state, who is saying that diversity can be a weakness and then proceeded to confuse the two black hosts with each other. More and more what we're seeing is that Andrew Cuomo, who ran an entire primary campaign on the premise that he was best suited to beat Donald Trump, as soon as we defeated him by 13 points, he proceeded almost immediately to get on his hands and knees to beg that same president for his help and the donors of that same president for their help. And now his closing message is to sound even more like the president than anyone else.
Are you saying a vote for Cuomo is like a vote for Trump at this point?
Yes, I am saying that. And I'm saying that because Donald Trump has handpicked his candidate. That candidate's name is Andrew Cuomo, and New Yorkers have the chance to handpick their fighter, and I believe that candidate should be me.
So let's get into this. I want to share this because this was funny. So as far as Andrew Cuomo, he got pressed on being endorsed by Trump. And I just want to go to what Zohran Mamdani said. This is off of a podcast. Let's get into this.
Boy was just on 60 Minutes, Cuomo, saying that you're his guy.
No.
Trump said you're his candidate. If he had to pick a bad Democrat or what did he say? Or a communist. Or a communist, he's picking you.
Oh my goodness. What are the 5 things Say the face. Slap. That was cold-blooded.
Hello?
I think that they cut him off. I think he had to rap.
You just get, oh. I really wanted to hear that answer. That's what I was going to ask you.
Ebro just got spicy.
Oh.
I heard a click before the boop.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, well, boy was just.
Yo, homeboy just hung up the phone live on the air because Donald Trump said that that's his man's. That's your man's. And you decided to hang up the phone because you got caught. Not caught. I'm going to say it like a New Yorker because I'm from New Jersey and New York is basically my cousin. You got caught. So hilarious. So what Zohran was saying is he's correct. And Andrew Cuomo couldn't take it. Don't get me wrong. I got my issues with Zohran because I don't think he goes far enough. But the crazy part is you got Andrew Cuomo, who's had 13 women who's accused him of sexual harassment, and he murdered a whole bunch of old people in old folks' homes during the pandemic with nipple rings. And so that's my biggest issue right now, is that you got this guy trying to talk about, oh, well, I'm actually going to make things better for New Yorkers. And this guy, he's going to be making all these promises. Well, you know what? People are sick and tired of you just trying to restore the soul of New York or restore the soul of America. They actually want some tangibles. They're sick and tired of not getting anything. And then on top of that, you got corrupt Eric Adams endorsing you as well. And now you're surprised that people are calling you out for the BS. And then you got Donald J. Trump saying if he had to pick between you or Mamdani, he picks you. Ooh, that's an endorsement that just doesn't taste right. My goodness. Ooh. Ooh. That ain't good. And so the thing is like, here's the crazy part, man. Zohran Mamdani is not even a radical. And Cuomo is getting destroyed by him, at least rhetorically and optically. And Cuomo can't even beat him. Cuomo was the governor, bro. Like, what in the heck? Dude, you were a governor, and now you can't even win a city in your own state? You might want to run for city comptroller of Buffalo or Albany, man. Or maybe you can see to be a dog catcher in Warwick. Because you just can't cut it in NYC. Gosh. All Ebro did was just, he basically just, that wasn't even a heavy pushback, man. You could have been like, man, Trump's just talking, he says a lot, but I ain't paying no attention to what Donald Trump's saying. Andy C couldn't even take it. Wow. Oh, man, the Pamper Prince, he got pressed. The Pamper Prince got pressed. Man, If I was Savvy Styles right now, I would put up the the under pressure song right now. That wasn't even that. That wasn't even that bad. You know, and here's the thing, man. I mean, there's Zohran. He answers some of the questions pretty decently. At the same time, and I listened to this entire interview between him and Ari Melber, and then Ari gets into Israel and stuff like that, which I'm just like, bro, come on. He's not running to be the mayor of Tel Aviv. He's running to be the mayor of New York City. Like, come on. Why you got to ask that? Why you got to ask that question? Is he running to be mayor of Caracas? Is he running to be the mayor of Nairobi? Is he running to be the mayor of Moscow? Or is he running to be the mayor of Pyongyang or Beijing? No. So why are you asking him about Israel? They don't make no damn sense. Anyways, so my question is, like, please take the poll because I'm curious. Do you think either Cuomo or Mamdani will win? And either or, do you think it's going to be a landslide, or you think one of them is barely going to win? I wonder how that's going to be, because we have like about 2 or 3 hours before polls close, and I'm actually quite curious to see what people think. I personally think Mamdani will win, but it won't be as much as we think it will be. I think he'll win. I think it will be slightly comfortable. I think he might win with like an 8-9% lead. If I'm wrong, I will say it loudly, but I think he'll probably win by like an 8 or 9% lead. I'm not expecting anything big, but we'll see. My question is, will it be a big upset? Now, I will say this, and I was thinking about this all day today. To anybody that considers himself to be actually on the left who is watching me right now, if Zohran Mamdani wins, you better be on his ass the entire time. You better be shoving him to the left. I said shoving him. Now, anybody who comes to the office, you need to be pressing them and holding their feet to the fire. But if somebody who claims to be part of your camp gets into office, you especially need to be on them like white on rice and milk on a paper plate in a snowstorm, seasoned with salt. Because let me tell you right now, if he fails, guess what? Guess what the Democratic Party is going to do? Well, we went too far to the left. You need to be on him. Try him. I'm telling you, if you're on the left, you need to be on him. Carrots and sticks, baby. Carrots and sticks. And I understand a lot of people who are in New York who are like, look, Cuomo is the worst of the worst. I cannot bring myself to vote for him. And if I stay home, I end up with either. So if we're going to end up with either, then I'm going to pick Mamdani. If you feel that way, okay. Plus, Mamdani does not have any power or say over foreign policy. So therefore, I get it, right? The only thing that I will say, though, is be on him because he is looking to continue to keep Jessica Tisch as part of the New York Police Department commissioner. And she is a huge rabid Zionist. So I will say that. Keep an eye. And also he's talking about he's not for defund the police. Baby, watch out. All right? I smell a snake in the grass. And it ain't Elizabeth Warren. But if you consider yourself to be on the left in New York, you better be on his butt. I'm telling you, just like, do not give him an inch at all. At all. Because, let me tell you, you give him an inch, they take a mile. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. There's a couple more things I want to show because I think this is important. While we're at it, because I know Zohran Mamdani, there's a chance that he may win tonight. One of the things that I want to share here is, and I've had her on. So Blakely got a chance to speak with Zohran Mamdani. And I just want to go over what Blakely asked and hear Mamdani's responses to what was said. So let's get in here and we'll talk about it on the other side.
So my question for Get Out the Vote today is for my leftist friends who think that voting and participating in electoral politics, even on the local level, is a waste of time. Why is it important? And that have said, oh, we can't do anything because you've got to work with the Albany. What do you say to those people that we're trying to convince today that it is worth it to them to go out and vote in this election?
So I think the key would be that we're not asking everyone to become an electoralist. We're not asking everyone to say that the only way to change the city that we love is through the ballot box. What we are saying is this is 5, 10, 15 minutes of your time. This is one way to bring that future forward. And this is one way to actually tangibly cast your vote in support of a vision of a city that belongs to all of us. And then you can do all of the other organizing that is so critical to winning that future, whether you're organizing tenants, whether you're on the front lines of immigration advocacy, whatever it may be. We need every single way to win the future that we deserve.
Right. And we can go back to hating right after we vote.
Yeah, come on, please.
Go back to hating.
Just tomorrow. Just do it tomorrow.
Okay, so here's the thing. I take that as do not give anybody an inch. When it comes to everything that he said he promised, you better push him towards that and beyond. Because, like, for instance, making buses free, that's cute. That's cute. Mm-hmm. A majority of New Yorkers, though, they use the subway. I say take some of that money from the NYPD and put it into the New York subway system so that people don't have to pay to use the subway. How much money would that save New Yorkers on a monthly basis so that they don't have to pay to use the subway? I'm just saying, how many cars would that actually take off the road too? Because it's like, well, we don't have to use the subway. And also maybe, just maybe, you can increase subway service so that you don't just have to have them come every few minutes between peak times. You can also have them come, closer together in time during non-peak times, right? So then they can actually do better when it comes to timing. Maybe I can take more cars off the road. And also that money, that tax that they're doing for when people want to drive during peak times, like through Manhattan, then take that away as well, right? Especially for these small businesses that are trying to operate in New York. Why should a bodega who's trying to get their food delivery have to pay more money, while all these big businesses who can't afford it, instead of, blanketing, and making them pay more, just tax that big business that's making millions of dollars off of speculation and tax it straight on them. Let the bodegas be all right. If somebody wants to, save a few money, if they want to save a few dollars and they won't have to spend as much on a chopped cheese, then let them do that. You know what I'm saying? Just make it so that the poorest New Yorkers come up, right? And so this reminds me of something that I saw. And I saw this earlier today, and I really wanted to go over this because I wanted to share this video that came out from years ago. So I want to share this, and some of you are going to recognize maybe during this time, the political climate. But I think it's important that we take a look back at what was said over 30 years ago and see how timely it is and how it really reflects of how many people feel today. So let me share this. There are two men speaking. One's name is Arsenio Hall. The other one's name is Eddie Murphy. Let's get into this. It says 33 years ago, two friends discussing politics, yet these feelings are so relevant in 2025. So let's get into it.
Kind of hate politics. I don't hate politics at all. You don't vote. Yeah, well, you know, I have what's the best way of putting this? A hate for politics? No, it's not a hate for politics. It's like, I don't remember a time when people were happy in this country, you know? Mm-hmm. So it's like, I can't get off. When I feel like somebody is representing me and I look and say, okay, I'm voting for him because he's going to do something for me, really for me, then I'll vote. But if it's a question of like, well, I know I'm going to have a foot in my ass, who got the smallest feet? You know?
You look. And how many times have we felt that, right? I have a foot in my behind. Who got the smallest feet? What have we said? Voting for one side or the other is like, okay, are you going to die by fire or are you going to die by drowning? Or am I willing to suffer a first-degree burn or a third-degree burn? Which one? You're still going to get burned anyway. But which one are you willing to suffer the most? Which one's the most painful? Which one's the most destructive? Which one's the most risk of life? And we shouldn't live in a system like that. But that's the lesser of two evils argument that's constantly being put before us. And Eddie Murphy realized it 33 years ago. 33 years ago. You know who was running for president at that time? Willie P., William Jefferson Clinton, Bill Clinton, Ross Perot, and was it Bob Dole? Or was it George H.W.? I think it was Bob Dole. One of those two. But that was a lot of, that was the same feeling 33 years ago. History may not repeat itself, but it damn sure rhymes, right? Let's continue.
I'm not with it. So what size Perot got? Yeah, 'cause I know George Bush wears some 13 Triple E. I'm not going all into that.
When you look at Clinton, Bush, and Perot, do you see anybody you have an interest in voting for?
Hey, man, I say my prayers, and I'm a spiritual person. And I'm going to let God settle all this craziness and all this.
But we can't all do that, Eddie.
Yeah, but that's what I'm doing, man. That's what I'm doing. I think it's a higher power than all of it. I think it's a higher power than government. I think it's a higher power than all of those things. And I've been let down personally. You feel let down, and you feel like you're a victim. I've had all that stuff in my life, And I'm down with that higher power. That's who I give my vote to.
But isn't that kind of like being a slave on the plantation and just singing and saying, Lord will make a way?
How you figure?
Just sing. And like, Lord will make a way instead of whipping some ass or voting.
But what's that going to accomplish by whipping some ass and voting?
It will accomplish more than just praying. I think prayer must be accompanied by some kind of action.
Oh, but see, that's if you...
Okay, so now, I think Arsenio's half right. This system, like voting for whatever they throw at us, ain't really gonna do much. Now, if you want to do something that's going to be your immediate, like maybe like city council or mayor or something like that has an immediate effect on your life, then yeah, I guess I get it. But these federal seats, the duopoly, it's like, what good is it? So the voting part, I'm like, nah, not really. But the kicking ass part, Okay, so that's the point, right? This is what we talk about mutual aid and building dual power. Let's continue on.
Accompanied by some kind of action. Oh, but see, that's if you feel that the government is doing things for you. You feel like the government is helping you out and doing things for you and has your interest, your best interest in hand.
That's why I'm going to vote, because I believe.
But have you ever felt like that? Have you ever felt?
I'll just keep voting until I find somebody who has my interest in hand.
Wait now. But who's tripping then? If you just going down in the booth and pulling this lever, and I'm singing, who's tripping?
Now, Eddie got a point. Because what are we seeing, right? It's the ratchet effect. So every single time we try to go better, right? The Democratic Party shifts everything, stops everything from moving left, and the Republican Party moves everything to the right. So then we just have to get back to where we were. But where we were last year is worse than where we were 10 years ago. And it keeps getting worse. So how often are we going to keep going to pull that lever? Now, if you want to say that's just one piece, a minute piece, right? But what more are you doing? Are you doing mutual aid? Are you building dual power? Are you building up your community? That's the kicking ass part that Arsenio had just left to the side when he said, "Oh, we gotta vote and kick ass." But my thing is like, wait. Now you just talk about just voting, and that's the problem. Is that you're so focused on making a steak dinner. You got the potatoes, right? You got the veggies, you got all the materials, but you ain't got the steak. Or that's like trying to make a cake. You got the butter, you got the eggs, you got the sugar, you got the vanilla, you got the cake flour. I'm sorry, the yeast, you got stuff like that, but you forget the flour. You leave out the flour. So are you going to be able to make a cake? Look, and I put it like this. If I'm trying to make a vanilla cake, I skipped the vanilla extract, but I got everything else. But let's say I remember the vanilla extract, but I forget the flour and the eggs. How am I going to be able to make the cake? You can make a cake without vanilla extract, but you can't make a cake without the flour and the eggs. You see where I'm going here? And so Arsenio put the kicking ass part to the side and he said, well, all you need is the vanilla extract. We just need the vanilla extract. No, Arsenio. The most important part is that flour and that eggs. If you forget the vanilla extract, then you can get something else to flavor it with. Maybe you can get some cocoa powder. Maybe you can get some semi-sweet chocolate up in there. Maybe you can get some strawberries. Maybe you can get some lemon extract. You know what I'm saying? You can replace it with something else. But the most important part is the foundational things. The building dual power, the building of mutual aid, to take out the institutions and the systems that create what we have in the first place. I'm just saying. So that part, Eddie got a point.
Who's to say what happens when you go pull a lever and they say, "Oh yeah, we counted the votes and there's this," and who knows what goes on, man?
I know, but
have nothing. Hey, Chiefs, you have nothing to do with any of it. Any of it. There's some cats that run this thing. I'm not doing this, and a lot of people are gonna say, "Oh, he's crazy," and rock the vote and all that. But there are a bunch of cats that run this planet, and they just wait on the higher power to handle things. I mean, read your Bible. Read your Bible.
Now, Here is where I'm going to disagree with Eddie, because he's basically like, just read your Bible, let God handle everything, and then just sit and wait. Eddie, we've been sitting and waiting for 33 years, bro. And you are part of the top 10% of Americans now? Looks like you need to read what is it, James chapter 2, verse 26. Just as the body without the spirit is dead, so is faith without works is dead. Which means if you have faith in something, that means you're actually going to have to work in order to be able to fulfill it. Because if you are a vessel that is created by God in order to be able to make change happen, then therefore you have to let God use you in that way. Therefore, it is up to you. It is God's will to use your power in order to be able to change this system from one that is deplorable and that is exploitative to something that gives equity, egalitarian policies, as well as dignity to all your fellow human beings who are also God's children. Right? You got to use the hands that God gave you. So that's the thing, right? So that's the part. It's like both Eddie and Arsenio, they're close. They're close. But they're not touching, just like in Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel. They're not touching yet. They're not touching it. They're close. All right, let's finish this up.
Read your Bible. I read Revelations. It ain't say nothing about thou shalt rock the vote. rock thine right to vote. I think that's satirically sound, but I really think you got to rethink that concept. Where were you doing the riots? You were out here, right? I was watching the riots. Yeah, when you watched that, what did you think? I was angry.
So they're referring to the riots that happened in LA after the beating of Rodney King. These are the LA riots that really rocked the entire nation, especially the Black community.
Angry, and I was confused, and frustrated. You feel frustrated, because you feel like, I don't know, man. I think the two greatest black minds ever, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, And those brothers passed away, and racism is as prevalent in society now as it's ever been. It's covert now. It's even worse because you don't even know who's who. And we've moved this far, and it's like it ain't like I'm on the plantation singing like we shall overcome, because it's not like I've come. I'm not on that tip. I'm not singing. It's like I know you have to do certain things to be successful in this system, and I know you have to go by the laws and follow all this stuff and work. You can be successful in this system, and turning over an apple cart ain't gonna get you nothing but shot by the powers that be. And people say, oh, he's down, and you be dead. I'm here to make some movies and make people laugh, and God will handle all this madness. He will handle it all. I'm an artist. We'll be right back with the artists.
And that point is why we're still in the system that we're in. Because people will say, it's just going to get you taken out anyway. But Eddie is missing one point. There are more of us than there are of them. And so with this whole thing in regards to what's going on with the election between Mamdani and Cuomo, if Mamdani wins, this could also set more copycats. I know there's a gentleman in Minneapolis that's also, his election is also today. He's Mamdani-esque in his policies too. But if either of them win, this will send shockwaves across the nation. And it may end up being more people to say, you know what, maybe we should run to the left, which I have no problems with. My thing is, I don't want it to be a precedent where people feel the need to fall back asleep or fall into reformism once again. Because as we learned, reformism doesn't work. Look what FDR did. Everything that FDR did was reformism. And look where we are now, about 80 some odd years later. So this is why it's so important for us to continue to fight to build dual power so that we leave this system in the dust. It belongs in the dustbin of history and it deserves to be forgotten. And we should have something that's built for everyone, not just the rest of us. So we shall see who wins. And we'll take a look at that poll right now. So let's go into the poll and see what you guys voted. I'm actually quite curious. Let's take a look. All right, so let me make sure this is big enough. All right, let me see. All right, let me see. Actually, let me hang on. Okay, let me enlarge. Okay, I just want to make sure it's all set up so you guys won't have to watch me enlarge and stuff like that. But let's take a look at the. All right, so out of 59 votes, it says, who do you think will win the New York City election today? 77% of you said Mamdani by a landslide. 2% said Cuomo by a landslide. I wonder who those were. Mamdani by a little, that's 20%. And then 2% said Cuomo by a little. So out of 60 votes, pretty much, most of you think, overwhelming majority of you think that Mamdani will win by a landslide. But what if it changes from that? Remains to be seen. But let's see how it goes. And one thing I do hope for, though, is I hope all y'all's rents get frozen because there's enough suffering as it is. So, guys, let's see how it goes and make sure to hold his feet to the fire if he does win, no matter what. No matter who wins, hold their feet to the fire, but especially if Mamdani wins. Thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you'd like to see any more, you can look here. One, forehead kisses.